Why saving money in a bank account is quietly making you poorer. You work hard, you save every month, you do everything right. You skip the fancy coffee, you cut back on eating out, you set aside a portion of your paycheck like clockwork. And at the end of the year, you open your banking app and you see it. Your savings balance is going up. It looks good, it feels responsible, it feels safe. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Nobody at your bank is going to tell you that money sitting in your savings account, it's losing value every single day. Not because someone is stealing from you, not because the bank made a mistake, but because of one invisible force that works silently, consistently, and ruthlessly against every dollar you don't invest. And by the time most people realize what's happening, they've already lost years of purchasing power they can never get back. So today, we're going to break down exactly why keeping all your money in a bank account is one of the most expensive financial mistakes you can make, and what you can do instead. We'll cover how inflation actually works against your savings, why the interest your bank pays you is basically a joke, what the real cost of playing it safe looks like over 10, 20, and 30 years, and what smart investors do differently. Welcome to Resurgam Ratio, where we explain investing concepts in a simple way, but first of all, a quick disclaimer. This is not financial advice. The invisible tax you never agreed to, all right. Let's start with the villain of this story, inflation. Now, I know you've heard this word before, but I want you to really understand what it means for your savings specifically, because most people think about inflation as prices going up. And that's true, but it's only half the picture. The other half, the part that actually matters for your bank account, is that inflation means your money is going down in value at the exact same time. Think of it like this. Imagine you fill a bucket with water and you seal it tight. You come back a year later expecting to find the same amount of water, but there's a tiny hole at the bottom you never noticed. The bucket looks the same from the outside, the number on the side says the same thing, but there's less water inside than when you started. That's exactly what inflation does to the purchasing power of your savings. Here's a real example. Let's say you have $10,000 sitting in a savings account today. Inflation in many developed economies has historically averaged around 2% to 3% per year. But in more recent years, and you've felt this, it's been significantly higher. Let's use a conservative 3% for this illustration. After 1 year, your $10,000 can only buy what $9,700 could buy today. After 10 years at 3% annual inflation, your $10,000 in purchasing power is worth roughly $7,400 in today's money. After 20 years, you're looking at around $5,500. After 30 years, that $10,000 has the purchasing power of just under $4,100. The number in your account hasn't changed, but what that number can actually buy you, the real value of your money, has been cut by more than half. That's not a prediction, that's just math. And that's the invisible tax nobody warned you about. What your bank is actually paying you. Spoiler, it's almost nothing. Now, to be fair, savings accounts do pay interest, so technically, your money is growing, right? Well, let's look at the numbers honestly. The average savings account interest rate at traditional banks has historically hovered somewhere around 0.3% to 0.5% per year. Even with the interest rate increases we've seen in recent years pushing high-yield savings accounts higher, the average person with a standard savings account at a big retail bank is still earning well below the rate of inflation. Let's put that in perspective. If you have $10,000 in a savings account, earning 0.4% interest, you earn $40 in a year. That sounds like free money, right? But remember, inflation at 3% is quietly removing $300 worth of purchasing power from that same $10,000. So your gain of $40 is actually a real loss of $260 in purchasing power. You're running on a treadmill, working hard to stay in place, but the treadmill is moving faster than you can run. Now, some banks, especially online high-yield savings accounts, do offer rates that are much more competitive, sometimes around 4% to 5% in a high-rate environment. And in those cases, yes, you can actually stay ahead of inflation temporarily, but here's the catch. Those rates are not fixed. They move with central bank policy. When interest rates come back down, and historically they always do, so does the rate your savings account pays. Inflation, on the other hand, has a habit of being stickier, so the window where your savings account actually beats inflation is narrower than most people think, and it's certainly not guaranteed. The bottom line, a savings account is not an investment, it's a holding place. There's a difference, and confusing the two is costing people real money every single year. The real cost of playing it safe, 30 years of safety. Here's where I really want you to pay attention, because this is the part that most people never actually sit down and calculate, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's look at two people. Meet Sarah and Marcus. Both are 25 years old. Both have $500 a month they can set aside. Same income, same discipline, same starting point. Sarah does what feels safe. She puts her $500 every month into a traditional savings account, earning an average of 0.5% interest. She feels good about this. She's building her emergency fund, her safety net. She's being responsible. Marcus takes a different approach. He puts his $500 every month into a low-cost index fund that tracks the S&P 500. He doesn't try to time the market. He doesn't pick individual stocks. He just keeps investing consistently every single month through the ups and the downs. Now the S&P 500 has historically returned an average of around 8% to 10% per year over long periods. Let's use a conservative 8% to be fair. After 30 years, when both Sarah and Marcus are 55 years old, here's what happens. Sarah has contributed $180,000 over those 30 years. With her 0.5% average interest, her account has grown to approximately $186,000. She's gained about $6,000 in interest. But remember, inflation has been eroding her purchasing power the entire time. In real terms, that $186,000 buys significantly less than $186,000 did 30 years ago. Marcus has contributed the exact same $180,000, but with an 8% average annual return compounded over 30 years, his investment has grown to approximately $745,000. Same amount saved, same discipline. The only difference is where the money went. That's not a small gap. That's the difference between a comfortable retirement and financial stress at 55. And the wild part is that Marcus didn't do anything complicated. He didn't pick the right stocks at the right time. He didn't have insider information. He just stopped letting inflation quietly eat his savings and put his money somewhere it could actually grow. Studies from Vanguard and other major investment research firms have consistently shown that for long-term wealth building, time in the market combined with consistent contributions beats savings accounts by a margin that's almost impossible to overcome, no matter how disciplined a saver you are. But what about risk? Savings accounts are safe. I hear this all the time, and I get it. I really do. The fear of losing money is real. Loss aversion, the psychological pain of losing $100 being much stronger than the pleasure of gaining $100, is one of the most documented behavioral patterns in finance. It's deeply human, and savings accounts feel safe because the number never goes down, ever. But here's the thing. The number not going down is an illusion of safety, because while the number stays stable, the value behind that number is quietly shrinking. That's a loss. It's just a slow, invisible, easy to ignore one. And because it doesn't show up as a red number on your screen, your brain doesn't register it as danger. But it is. There's a concept in investing called real return, which is your investment return minus inflation. A savings account with a 0.4% interest rate in a 3% inflation environment has a real return of negative 2.6%. That's not safety. That's a guaranteed slow loss, dressed up in the disguise of stability. Now, I'm not saying you should put every single dollar you own into the stock market. That would be irresponsible. Your emergency fund, typically 3 to 6 months of living expenses, absolutely belongs in a liquid, accessible account. If your car breaks down or you lose your job, you need money you can access immediately without worrying about market conditions. That's what a savings account is designed for. That's its job. And it's good at that specific job. But the money beyond your emergency fund, the money you're setting aside for 5, 10, 20 years from now, that money is being silently punished by keeping it in a savings account. That's the money that should be working for you. What smart investors do instead. So what's the alternative? Let's keep it practical. The most accessible starting point for most people is a broad market index fund, or ETF. These are funds that track an entire market index, like the S&P 500 or a global index, giving you instant diversification across hundreds or even thousands of companies. The fees are low, often as little as 0.03% to 0.20% per year, which is almost nothing compared to the cost of inflation eating your savings account. The key is not trying to find the perfect moment to invest. Research from the Archbridge Family Office, analyzing S&P 500 data going back to 1990, found that investors who waited for the perfect dip consistently underperformed those who simply invested regularly regardless of market conditions. The market doesn't need to be at the perfect price for your money to start growing. It just needs time. Think of it like planting a tree. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Waiting for the ideal soil conditions, the perfect weather, the perfect season, that's just more time the tree isn't growing. Your money is the same. Dollar cost averaging, investing a fixed amount at regular intervals, regardless of whether the market is up or down, is how most everyday investors put this into practice. It removes the pressure of timing, removes the emotional decision-making, and harnesses the power of compounding over time. And compounding, as Einstein reportedly once noted, is the eighth wonder of the world. When your returns start generating their own returns, the growth becomes genuinely extraordinary over long periods. Hartford Funds research found that over a 30-year period, an investor who stayed fully invested in the S&P 500 saw dramatically better outcomes than those who moved in and out trying to time the market. Missing just the 10 best days over a 20-year period cut total returns by more than half. Those best days often happen during the most fearful, volatile moments, exactly when people are tempted to pull their money back into the safety of a savings account. Here's what I want you to take away from this video. Saving money is a virtue. Discipline is a virtue. Building a habit of setting money aside every month is something most people never master. And if you're doing it, you deserve credit for that. But saving and investing are not the same thing. And treating them like they are is quietly costing you more than you realize. A savings account has a job. It's a good job. Keep your emergency fund there. Keep money you need access to in the next 1 to 2 years there. Sleep well knowing that money is protected, but the money beyond that, the money that's supposed to build your future, that money deserves better than a 0.4% interest rate in a world where inflation runs at 2%. 3% or higher. The gap between Sarah and Marcus wasn't talent, it wasn't luck, it wasn't insider knowledge. It was the decision to stop letting inflation silently pick their pocket and start letting compound returns do the heavy lifting instead. You don't need to be wealthy to start investing. You don't need to understand every concept perfectly. You just need to start consistently, patiently, and with a long enough time horizon to let the math work in your favor. That's everything I wanted to cover today. If you found this helpful, I would really appreciate it if you liked this video and subscribe to continue growing this community. Thanks for watching and see you very soon.